welcome back. It's Mare from SickMom with another carnivore update for you. But there are some fairly significant improvements that I wanted to share with you. One of them being that my appetite seemed to have returned yesterday after being gone for a week or so. Probably a little bit more than that, but yesterday I actually felt like I was hungry and I ate quite a bit and I enjoyed it and I didn't feel you know, there weren't negative repercussions from that or anything, which is good, because sometimes, you know, I might eat a larger meal and then later on at night I might start feeling some of that nauseous kind of feeling that, you know, not really fun when you're trying to sleep, but regardless of that, appetite was good yesterday, appetite's been better today as well, and that's something that I have been hoping for, because I have, you know, in the first 30 days, I did record a video that said, eat more, because I just still felt like I was having a hard time eating enough. And that's definitely been true in the last couple of weeks, where I just felt like, you know, it didn't really matter what I had in front of me. I just felt like I couldn't get all the way through the meal that I had planned out for myself. So huge happy moment for me to realize, like, hey, I'm hungry, was really good. And in the first month, I actually feel like my appetite was a little bit better, and then my appetite sort of went off. That could have had to do, it could have been related to migraines, weather changes, you know, having slight interruption in my routine, having my little road trip and everything. But definitely it's on the upswing. And with that, I can also comment that I have had a lot less nausea. So I'm not waking up every day anymore feeling like, oh, I'm so nauseous. Really happy about that. There is still nausea. It shows up, and then I treat it. I just deal with it. And even treatments for pain, in one of the Coffee with Mare episodes, I think it was a day or two ago, could have been yesterday, who knows, I can't remember which video it was, but I did talk about one of the days on my little trip that I had out of town, where I got to around, I guess, past midday, sort of dinner time, and I didn't need pain meds up until that point. So for you guys to understand the level of chronic pain that I deal with, and also the sudden onset acute pain that I have, or SOAP as I like to call it because it's shorter, that can show up anytime. So pain that I've had before can return, and new pain can show up unexpectedly. Part of that is due to the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, where I have stuff that just kind of pops in and out at will. It's mostly for me in my back, in my feet. Sometimes my shoulders get irritated, my neck definitely. Also with psoriatic arthritis and fibromyalgia and osteoarthritis, you combine all of that and you get pretty unpredictable pain. So I've had treatments that I am very happy with, I'm very comfortable with, and that they help me manage my pain on my own terms, so that, you know, I still feel like there's a level of control, and that it's not just take something and then I get knocked out for 12 hours. I've had those kinds of meds in the past, and that was definitely not the route that I wanted to go with when I had a conversation a few years ago with my doctor about long-term pain management and what options there were, and that I was really opposed to opioids, because in my sporting career I had definitely had to use a lot of those different kinds of medications, and it's not something that really works well with irritable bowel syndrome. It can cause all kinds of other issues, especially if taken for long periods of time. So I needed something that was a little bit better. Not here to talk about that pain treatment. You have to do you. You have to find what's going to work for you. I'm just lucky that after so many years of being in a lot of pain every day, that I finally found something that was giving me at least some relief on a daily basis. And I do believe that getting your pain under control is really important so that you can move your health forward. And I'm going to talk about chronic pain in different terms. So for instance, with neuroplasticity, I find that that's something that you can use to your advantage to retrain your brain on pain signals and how to get a body that's hooked on pain off of it. Because until you realize that your body's kind of oversensitized and being stimulated all the time by things that are really non-threatening, that that you won't be able to break that pain cycle. And the neuroplastic transformation for chronic pain course that I've mentioned before was instrumental in helping with the chronic pain side of things, and I do still use a lot of those techniques. But overall, I think what we're looking at now, because carnivore has now been in my life for a month and a half-ish, let's say, because I started at the end of January. And I feel like I've seen, by comparison, rapid improvement, okay? And that's not to say that I won't have times where my health will backslide, just because my chronic illness picture is very interesting and complicated. We'll just say that. So I know there's going to be some lows ahead of me, but so far the highs have far outweighed any of the lows that I've experienced while I've been on carnivore. So yeah, I'm a happy carnivore girl, and I have really done a lot of work to try and immerse myself in the community, as far as joining different groups on Facebook that are run by people that have been doing carnivore for over a decade. And I want to stress that this is the choice that I have made to join those kinds of groups, because the amount of expertise that is available with people who have been doing it for longer than 10 years, they've kind of seen some of the fads come and go. Like for a while, people were committed to eating completely raw on carnivore, and that very quickly passed. And then there's a lot of conversations that get quite inflammatory online about intermittent fasting, and I'm going with the people that have said, you know what, we've done fasting, we've not done fasting, and I don't feel that there was a difference. And to me, someone who's been doing this for 10 years or more would have a really good sense of what that looks like. And if they really did feel a huge benefit from doing intermittent fasting, they'd probably still be doing it. So I end up kind of inadvertently fasting because of the whole hunger and nausea issue, which that's why I'm so excited that my appetite came back, because that's a bonus for me. But you know, I'm committed to following my appetite, and when my appetite's not there, yeah, I'll still eat a little bit. Like I might get a little bit hungry and feel like, okay, this should be the time that I would be eating, and if I put something in front of me and I take a bite and it tastes good, I'll keep eating. If it doesn't, I just put it back in the fridge. And that's kind of any form of fasting. That's the extent of it for me, because it's already complicated enough with the rest of my health issues that I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm trying to force myself not to eat when I already have a hard time eating enough in a day as it is. So I hope that makes sense to you. And I believe that whatever is going to work for different people, then do that. What works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. So it's important to take your individual body's needs, maybe even over some advice that just doesn't quite sit right with you. Starting carnivore was already a big enough shift for me that I feel like I've committed to that and I have stayed true to it. And no, I haven't had any cheat days, in case you're wondering. I haven't felt the need to. I don't crave stuff. When I was out visiting with friends, when I was out of town, I was at a great little bakery. It's like this beautiful little French bakery, and so many lovely treats in there. So many wonderful things that I would have probably just died for and absolutely enjoyed every bite in the past. This time I was looking at it and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna bring some cute little macarons home for my daughter because she really likes those. But I was looking at my friends saying, I don't want any of it. You know, I don't crave the sugar anymore, like craving sweets or chocolate or cake or cookies. Cake and cookies was really where that was my go-to, and I had relatively healthy versions of those that I would make for myself that, you know, catered to the food intolerances that I had and that didn't make me feel worse. But now I just kind of feel so liberated because it's not like a huge temptation for me to go into a bakery. I think it would be a bigger temptation for me to go to an all-you-can-eat meat buffet that has nothing but like barbecued baby backs and steak. I'd be all over that. Are you kidding me? That would make me super hungry and it would be awesome. And of course, I'd probably just ask for some ribs that are unsauced. And same thing with the meat. Just make sure there's no sauce on it. I don't feel like I really need that stuff. Am I eating cheese? Yeah, still eating some cheese now and then. It's not an everyday occurrence. And what I have started doing is, love Costco for this, buying larger blocks of cheese for a much better price than I would get at the grocery store. And then I use my food processor to grate all of the cheese and then just whack it in the freezer. Shake up the container once it's frozen, and then you have this loose grated cheese that you can just drop into an omelet, or if you're making chaffles, or even, you know, little mini egg bites. That works for me because then I also don't feel the pressure of having to eat it because it's in my fridge. Knowing that it's grated already, it's in my freezer, and I can just take as much as I want. And usually it's not very much, and I feel quite satisfied with that. I do still have heavy whipped cream in my fridge. I'm still using that for making cappuccino. Also not every day. Still not drinking coffee every day. I love it, and I'm not going to give up coffee full time. I have done that in the past. I've actually gone years without drinking coffee in the past. And at this point, I feel like my stomach is not getting really angry at me when I'm drinking coffee, and also having that whipped cream. For the days that I don't have a lot of appetite, I'll have my cappuccino, and then it's like, hey, you know what? I actually feel like I could eat something. So, but again, heavy whipped cream, not half and half. And I think it's important to note that it is higher fat. Yes, there's still a little tiny bit of carbohydrates in cheese and in heavy whipped cream, but I'm not doing carbs anywhere else. And there are a lot of other carnivores who are also, you know, occasionally they have a little bit of cheese, they might have a little bit of heavy whipped cream. At one point, I may not want it anymore, and I'll just stop buying it, or I'll stop eating it and just have it as a little treat. But for now, it's appetizing, and I'm keeping the things that are very appetizing in my diet. Also, something else to note, this is very interesting. As far as the body healing itself, I know it's been a very short period of time, but for some reason, my severe intolerance to eggs does not seem to be bothering me as much, because I used to get a lot of bloating and gas every time I'd eat eggs, and it was really not fun. It was uncomfortable, and I would really just kind of save eggs for those occasions if I was going out to a restaurant with my family and eat them then, you know, or if I was really desperate and I was just tired and I wanted something easy, I might have a couple of eggs, but I tried to stay away from them. These days I'm eating eggs almost every day. It's not causing bloating and swelling and gas, and I feel good after eating eggs. Who knew? I think that there might be some logic also to food combinations. I'm not going to get into that. I never went down the full path of really being mindful of what foods were being combined with what. I know some people that did that actually for quite a long time, and they had some success. For them, though, it was weight loss. For me, this is something totally different. This is trying to heal my body from the inside out. Yeah. Maybe it's the fact that I am not eating carbohydrates that is allowing my body to actually process and digest the eggs and use them the way they're supposed to. We'll see. We'll see if that's something that sticks, or if the longer I eat eggs that maybe that intolerance will pop up again and I'll start feeling like, yeah, maybe I don't want to eat eggs anymore. And it won't be a big deal because I can still have steak and bacon and meat cookies. Oh, burger patties. I kind of am having a love-hate relationship with burger patties right now. I definitely prefer them when they're grilled. I've tried doing them in the frying pan or even in the oven in the bacon grease, or the pan that I had cooked bacon in prior. And I just seem to prefer when they're grilled and searing them at a fairly high temperature. They stay a lot juicier. They don't get as hard. But I may also start just cooking ground beef loosely and keeping that in Tupperwares. I've done that for years, where you just, add a little bit of salt and maybe a little bit of butter to the ground beef and fry it up in the frying pan, and then just portion it off and even stick that in the freezer, because that's really easy to just take out and warm up one container of ground beef or a couple of containers. It's the same way that I portion out things like pulled pork when I make pulled pork. So, and the reason why I think I would go to the loose ground beef in addition to doing burger patties is that I still find the chewing is a lot, and my jaw gets really sore. So from just even chewing steak and chewing burger patties, like it just gets to a point where I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm still hungry, but my muscles are tired from chewing that much. So I'm trying to, cut things into smaller pieces and have them so that it's kind of broken down a little bit easier. And I'm sure I'm going to be developing some great new muscles in my jaw from just eating that much meat. And over time, it might not be as tiring. It's right now it is tiring. And that's a really funny observation, that it's like I can't seem to get through my dinner because my jaw gets tired before I'm done. So I'm still having fun. I'm still enjoying it. On the days where I'm a bit low energy, yeah, I really have to set my mind to let's make some stuff so that I've got leftovers. And the weeks that my daughter's home, it's the meal planning. So we've got food that's made for lunches and for dinners, and going in that direction. It's positive. It is positive, and I still feel very fortunate that I don't have a lot of people that are trolling me. That there have been the occasional comments, but it hasn't really been on social media. It's been more with conversations with people that are kind of like, right, you're eating only meat. How's that going for you? And I'm like, I feel good. My body feels like it's happy. I feel like I have more energy. I have less pain. I have less nausea. And I start kind of listing off a few of the things that are working for me. And it's not with the goal of trying to sway anybody's opinion on whether or not carnivore is a good thing or a bad thing. I really couldn't care less what they think, because they're not living in my body. And I really suggest that people maybe adopt that perspective when it comes to whatever it is that you're doing for yourself, whether it's alternative therapies or if it's a new diet or you've got a new coach or on a new exercise plan. And You know, the minute you start talking about something new, people that have been doing something different for a very long time often want to jump in and show you the weaknesses in the choices that you've made. And they're doing this out of love and out of kindness. So I don't think people are genuinely being malicious when they start talking about that stuff. In fact, I know that I just love to share knowledge with people, and I will share the things that I know, not necessarily to sway them off of the path that they've chosen, but just to kind of go, okay, well, I want to hear more about your experience with this particular aspect of what you've chosen so that I can inform myself. Because it might not be something that I want to engage in, but I do want to know more information, and I want to be able to not necessarily do a side-by-side comparison, but have some information. So if anyone asks me about it, I can say, well, you know what, I only know about this much about that, and I do know someone who's doing it, and if you want to talk with them, then I can put you in touch with them. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not the expert in that area, so I'm doing this for me, and you know, you do you. That's kind of that's just kind of how I've been cruising through the last month and a half, and just having fun and not really being overly concerned with other people think. And also having the support from my doctor, and that she just wanted to know how I felt. That was her primary concern. How do you feel? And I feel very fortunate that I have such a great doctor. She's an amazing family physician, and I adore her. I've been going to her since my daughter was born pretty well, and without her, I never would have even gotten this far along my recovery, because she has gone to bat and advocated for me on more than one occasion, and I've also done the same alongside, and I've shared that information with her when I've had to, you know, take things into my own hands. And it's kind of the same thing with carnivore. When I said, okay, I made a choice, I've made a decision, and I started eating carnivore diet and following that. And I said, you know, do you know people who are doing really low carb or zero carb and keto? And she says, oh yeah, absolutely. But how do you feel? So that was a really great indication that she was just more concerned about what kind of success and results I was having, as opposed to imposing outdated and old knowledge on me about, you know, the Canada Food Guide and all of that kind of stuff, because she could have gone in that direction, but she didn't. So I was so thankful. The conversations I've had around carnivore have been beneficial and quite open. And I hope that if whatever it is that you've done to just shake things up in your life, that you have people that are there to just support you and understand that you're not asking them to do what you would do, because most people would say, oh, I could never do that. It's like, well, you probably never will have to, unless you get to a situation where you're so desperate to regain your health, as I was, that you will do almost anything. And that's where I was, and that's when carnivore showed up for me, and it was exactly the right timing. As I've mentioned before, sometimes things show up for you and it's not the right time. Had this shown up last year, I would not have been mentally or physically prepared to do that. I was just in too rough shape. You know, around a year ago, like, things started improving slightly, but I still was flaring with my illnesses and dealing with all of that. But yeah, we've come a long way, come a really long way in a year, and I am hopeful for the future. And I want to leave you with that hope today. And thank you so much for joining me for this update. If you like this video, I sure hope you did. Make sure that you hit that like button, give us some love, and be sure to subscribe to this channel. So you also need to hit that notification bell, and you'll be notified whenever the next videos are landing here on YouTube. So for tonight, this is SickMom checking out.